Hey, hello everybody. I believe I'm on the air, and if I'm not, well, it wouldn't be the first time I'm talking to myself. Hey everybody, this is Chip Towers with Dog Nation, coming to you with tonight's Towers Take, brought to you by Marco's Pizza, America's favorite pizza company, as those of you who tune in to here all the time know. And we got a great promotion with them tonight. Let me see if I can go ahead and tell you that before I forget. Um, so they got a new deal. Uh, Say hello to the doubly delicious double play with Marco's Pizza. Get two medium, two topping pizzas from Marco's for an everyday price of just $7.99 each. So previously it was that huge extra large cheese one. Now you can get a couple of medium pepperoni pizzas. A lot to talk about tonight. I barely just got in. In fact, we're a couple of minutes late getting in here because I actually just coming from over Georgia's football complex. I'm sure everybody at this point has heard about Kirby Smart's new deal. He got a big new deal from the University of Georgia to continue to be their coach. 7 years, $49 million, or $7 million a year. We assume that's what it's going to break down. We haven't gotten all the details just yet. Right now, we're just getting the general announcement therein, and we haven't gotten the details of the contract just yet. So please, tune in and give me your comments and let me know what you think about that. Obviously, that's a lot of money. That makes Kirby Smart only the third highest paid coach in the SEC. As always, as ever, I guess Nick Saban remains the top paid coach in the SEC at roughly $11 million a year. And then, as you guys know, Jimbo Fisher came over from Florida State to Texas A&M. The Aggies paying $75 million over 10 years to bring him in. And it was interesting. Look, we all knew this is news, but it's kind of not news. I mean, after Kirby in his second year leads Georgia to a 13-2 record, and the national championship game appearance, SEC championship for the first time in 12 years, you knew a raise was coming for Kirby Smart. Previously, he had a 6-year contract that paid him $3.75 million. Pretty good for a new head coach, but not good for a SEC championship coach. And look, salaries like everything else in the SEC are competitive. So the only question about this for me, when you were talking about Kirby Smart getting a raise, was where would he get slotted? Would he get? You knew he wasn't going to make more than Nick Saban. You assumed he wasn't going to make more than Jimbo Fisher, who has, after all, won a national championship with Florida State and coached a good bit longer as a head coach. The real question was with Gus Malzahn and Dan Mullen, veteran SEC coaches. Dan Mullen got $6.1 million to come from Mississippi State, where he already made over $5 million there, I think, to Florida, and then Gus Malzahn, who actually got a raise right after Georgia defeated them in the SEC championship game in Mercedes-Benz Stadium. He got a 7-year, $49 million deal. So I was joking with some other. I'm kind of disappointed Georgia didn't pony up another 100,000 or something, right? And over 7 years, in the grand scheme of the way salaries are now, it's not that much. And they could have said that Kirby was by himself as the third highest paid coach in the SEC. But as it is, he's tied with Auburn's Gus Malzahn for third, and kind of to that end, they sort of tied for Owen Pappoe, right? This week, the tremendous 5-star linebacker out of Grayson, who chose Auburn over Georgia here the other day. That was got a lot of chatter everywhere I could see. I'm trying to get your comments called up here and actually having trouble, but I definitely want to hear from you guys today. Let me see if I can go to a secondary resource to hear from you guys. But anyway, it took me forever to get back. I only live about 10 minutes from campus normally, but traffic jam in Athens between construction and, hey, I know I'm talking to a lot of people in Atlanta, but this was Atlanta worthy today. Traffic on the loop because of I'm trying. Pardon me for looking away, but I'm trying to get your comments queued up on this secondary device because it's not working on this one. But you got graduation this weekend. 30-something Georgia athletes graduating this weekend, I think it was, and that always brings with it extra. A lot of people in town. A lot of people. And then there's construction. They're doing construction on the loop in Athens. So there's just all kinds of traffic trying to get home. Let's see if I can finally get, okay, over here I can got you guys. I'm going to get you guys. So let's see your comments now. Oh, yeah. There we go. Every time. Didn't expect to use this device, so hang on a second. I say device. This is my iPhone. I'm having to look at you on an iPhone. Thank you very much. Nicole House says she's happy about the raise. Hello, Tony Jackson, Ernest Leggett. I apologize for the delays here and everything today, guys. I don't know what's wrong with my normal deal, but anyway, yeah, there, and you can see pinned right down there at the bottom is that great deal from Marco's Pizza. But yeah, so no surprise, payday came from Kirby Smart. And this is what happens in college athletics now. If you win at the highest level, you're going to get paid at the highest level, and the highest level is very high right now. There's Georgia Jeff. Georgia Jeff, I don't think I've heard from you on here. Welcome. Glad to see you. We got Naples, Florida in the house. Bill McReady's or McRides, one of the two. Nick Lurch says, I sure wish he made more than Gus. He sure is a better coach. Good comment, Nick. And yeah, that's what I was saying. I mean, couldn't they have ponied up a little bit more? But it's interesting. Jimmy Sexton is Kirby Smart's agent. Is everybody else in the SEC's agent? Seems like Jimmy SEC Sexton, and it was just wondered where they were going to slot him, and number 3 is pretty good. And look, I know the way Kirby Smart is. I'm sure he's seeing this as a starting point. Yeah, Beth Starrett. It's been a good day, in Georgia athletics in general, University of Georgia athletics, but all of the state. Matt Ryan getting a new deal from the Atlanta Falcons, $100 million, I think it was, though. Beth Starrett here is telling me, what about Ryan, $150 million? Is that a $150 million contract? I haven't had a chance to really look at that very much. Worth every penny, says Susan Richter, or Kyle Richter, one of the two. And look, I know that's the way everybody feels out there. There's no question where Kirby Smart is in Georgia hearts right now, certainly coming off of one of the most exciting seasons in the history of Georgia football. I mean, it's a great season period. There have been seasons that Georgia's won a couple of national championships, but that was a unbelievable season, and really, really strong. Chris Topol informing me here it's $30 million over 5 years. I don't know who that deal is for. Braves sweep the Mets. By a total score of 20-something to 2, I think. So it's a good day in the state of Georgia for sure, and a great day for Kirby Smart. I would love to know what he's doing. You can read the initial report on Kirby's raise, and then I have a take on it, as I usually try to do, or posted on dognation.com right now. Not a whole lot else. Kirby and Greg McGarity and Jerry Moorhead all issued statements that Georgia sent out. We listened to a teleconference call, which lasted, I think, maybe a total of 5 minutes, which included them going into executive session, the Athletic Association going into executive board going into executive session to discuss it. And, they came right back just a few minutes later, announced it, didn't take any questions. Jerry Moorhead leading the conversation, and the executive board, and Greg McGarity on there as well. Craig Shipley, the faculty athletics representative. And that was that. Tried to reach Kirby, and that's what I was wondering about. I don't know what he's doing, but I assume he's celebrating somewhere. He was with Tom Crean earlier today in Atlanta, and but didn't get him. And Greg McGarity hasn't responded just yet. Hoping to talk to both of them. Eventually, we will about all this, but for now, the deal is done. One deal that didn't get done, as I mentioned earlier, Georgia was unable to come away with Owen Pappoe for now. Jeff Sentell and many others feel very strongly that this is not a battle that's over just yet. Obviously, everybody in the world would like to sign this guy. Apparently, he's been pledged to Auburn silently for quite some time. Just a linebacker who just tests through the roof from Grayson, best spark score ever. Back when I covered recruiting in around 2010 and 11, had a short stint there. They were just starting to come out with that whole spark thing. Everybody was starting to quantify like that. That guy right there, Owen Pappoe, best spark score ever, apparently. So, he's really fast. He's big. He's strong. And he's heading to Auburn for now. Georgia's not giving up on him. He told Jeff Sentell and the others there to cover him at Sports and Social in Battery Park this past week. That, mainly, he said the resident things, he felt comfortable there, and Auburn family and all that kind of stuff. But specifically that he liked Auburn's depth chart better than Georgia's. And I found that interesting because Georgia's depth chart, certainly there's some good linebackers there and some good linebackers on the way, but it's not something that I would call really, really deep. And when you're a 5-star number 1 rated guy, generally you're not really concerned about anything. But Georgia's had a tough time, getting players out of Grayson. Obviously, they got D'Angelo Gibbs. But as of this moment, I don't expect D'Angelo Gibbs to be on Georgia's roster this year. And, maybe he will be. At this moment, he's not at all. And looks like my other device is finally coming in, so I can read a little bit easier there. Welcome, Christy Morrell, on here. Anyway, so keep coming with your questions. Let me know what you have, and I'll do my best to answer them. Let's see what do we have now, Chris? Let's see. Told coaches not to believe anything unless it comes from him, is what Owen proposed, according to Austin Moore. Georgia's got good linebackers, and they're going to get good linebackers. But I loved what Kirby Smart's initial reaction was to Pappoe's. As somebody tell me which way it's pronounced, Pappoe or Pappoe. I've heard it both. Most people. Brandon Adams, God bless him, says it both ways in the same sentence. He's certainly a great linebacker. But there's a lot of great linebackers out there, and Kirby right away tweets out the business about Roquan Smith being picked with the 8th pick this year, and all the money that Georgia players are getting in contracts this year. Somebody else I saw where Auburn's last linebacker drafted was Takeo Spikes way back in whatever that was. When would Takeo Spikes have come out? 2002 or something? I don't know, but I haven't studied it, so I don't know, but I know Georgia definitely has a rich linebacker legacy, and all these guys put good players in the NFL. I get the reminder right here from Jonathan Allen. Marcos with a cold beer, nothing like that. I agree 100%. So be sure and check out the special deal down there at Hannah has it pinned at the bottom, 2 Marcos pizzas. I'm not 100% sure if there's a code for that or not, but I bet if you just tell them you want that deal, you will be well served by them. So be sure and check that out. Marshall Fleming is saying that Papo reminds him of Thomas Davis. Yeah, I would say so too. I mean, is not as big. I tell you, I like Georgia's linebackers right now. I think they may be a little bit better than a lot of us think. I mean, I certainly like the idea of Monty Rice and Natrez Patrick playing together, and Juwan Taylor and Tate Crowder as well. Recently, just a little bit of a preview here, but I've been able to go up to Columbia, South Carolina, and meet Channing Tindall. Man, what an impressive young man. He falls more in the category of the bigger guy, maybe closer to Natrez Patrick physically, just in size, but he's a really quick guy. But, he's also a really good kid. I got to spend a good bit of time with him up there at Spring Valley High School in Columbia. And, look forward to telling you a lot more about that young man. These things are great. The way we do it generally, as Jeff Sintel, you recruit Nicks out there, and I know there's tons of you guys can probably tell me a lot more about these guys than I can until it comes to National Signing Day. Then I learn, you can't help but learn about a lot of these guys like Papo. But you really don't get to know them for a long time, and that's what my job is once they sign. And a lot of terrific personalities, great stories out there everywhere. And I've met a lot of these guys in recent weeks. Here's a good question. Diedrich Fraser wants to know: does Chris Barnes transferring mean Tramel Walthour will not gray shirt? Glad you asked that on a couple of levels. Every understanding I get from inside the program is everybody that Georgia signed is going to get in. Tramel Walthour, I made this mistake as well, is not eligible for a gray shirt per se because he's already signed for Georgia. A gray shirt is somebody who doesn't sign, enrolls, and then signs. So he has a signed letter of intent, delayed enrollment, whatever you would call it. I don't know. His coach, Kirk Warner, who I've known since he played for Georgia, says in no uncertain terms that he's still a dog and he doesn't know anything about all the other stuff. But as we can see with Chris Barnes transferring, he follows Jaleel Legwins and one other, and that's so that's three guys who have transferred. Excuse me, Pat Allen. Another guy I profiled some time back for Next Generation, and Jaleel Legwins, come to think of it. Those guys have transferred. You got medical DQs from Rashad Roundtree and Sam Madden. So room is coming, Georgia's going to be right up against it. That's the way Kirby plays his cards generally. He wants all 85 of those scholarships used. Nobody's brought this up. What's going to happen with Marshall Long? He's on scholarship, and he didn't have a great spring. After getting beat out last year by a graduate transfer in Cameron Nizilik. So there's a lot to do. Amanda Bagwell asked the natural question: are all these players transferring because we have to get under the 85 on scholarship? That's a great question, and there's been a lot of debate over signing and all that. Mark Richt kind of made it known, and it was a cornerstone of his program, that when you signed a scholarship with Georgia, it was a 5-year deal, regardless of what happened. But all coaches, every coach in every sport, at the end of the whatever season you just had, whether it be football, basketball, baseball, whatever, they have exit interviews. I mean, they sit down with every player on their roster and discuss where they see them at that moment and where they see them going. And certainly for Pat Allen and Jaleel Legwins and Chris Barnes, I think it was pretty clear to them, and I imagine it was communicated by Kirby Smart that we don't see a lot of playing time for you next season based on the depth chart and the way things have broken down. So I don't think and the fact of the matter is, NCAA, a letter of intent, a grant and aid, is a 1 year document. So, you're not guaranteed to get it back. But, based on the comments of these guys, and none of whom have, seem to want to talk about it, I've reached out to all of them to see how they feel about it. Clearly, in the case of Legwins and Pat Allen, I mean, they talked a lot about loving how much they love Georgia and it hurt to leave. And I mean, I personally feel, if a guy's recruited and he's given a scholarship, but he's unable to either live up to the expectations put on him either by the coaches or the fan base or whatever, it's really on the coaches, that the evaluators, as to whether they should, get to stay. So, I mean, but all those guys are good kids, and they'll land somewhere else, and they'll probably play for someone else. They want to continue their career and they want to play. Let me get to some more questions here. Mike Bennett wants to know if there's any more graduate transfers coming this year from Kirby. Mike, I would not count anything out with Kirby. We always see some summer action from him. It seems like there's always guys show up we don't know anything about. The first of August. Christopher James says, Kirby getting paid. What's happening, Chip? Kirby's getting paid. That's for sure. If I did my math right, I think that was an 86% raise that he received. And I was trying to think if I ever got an 86% raise. And I actually think I might have doubled my salary when I moved from one newspaper to another a long time ago. Of course, that all that did was get me off the poverty line at the time. So that was kind of funny. Here's Patrick Neesmith, y'all. He is an Alabama fan, by the way. Yeah, thanks. He's making fun of my lighting here. Hey, look, I came flying in here on two wheels in my car after battling this vicious Athens traffic coming from Georgia's campus, and it was everything I could do to throw a computer up here and get started. John West is talking about a great piece that Jeff Sentell wrote talking about the Grayson coach, the Grayson recruiting coach, and the influence he has on recruiting. I thought that was very, very revealing. A lot of these big programs, have somebody who handles recruiting for them beyond the head coach. That's usually not on the actual school payroll. It's not unusual to see. I know, what was his name? Corey Johnson, terrific gentleman over at Stevenson High in Atlanta. And you guys know anybody who follows recruiting knows how many players Stevenson puts in colleges every year. And John West is a great piece. If you haven't seen it, go to Dog Nation and find Jeff Sentell's article on the Grayson coach, whose name's not in front of me right now. Somebody else wants to say it, you're welcome to. Santiago Diarn wants to know if I know of any other players considering transferring. I mentioned Marshall Long. I don't know. I mean, certainly these guys don't talk to me. Kirby is talking to him, or has at least probably completed recently. Chris James, again, referring to him, says, saying Papo doesn't want to compete. I don't know if that's the case, but I always think that's probably the wrong thing to say, especially when you're a 5-star, number 1 rated guy. That you didn't see as many players to compete with on the depth chart at Auburn. I mean, I think at the end of the day, he's been recruited a long time by Auburn, has a good relationship with those coaches and staff over there, and it's a good win for Gus Malzahn. And as Jeff's story alludes to, Georgia typically just hasn't done all that great at Grayson. Going back to Mickey Kahn and Jeff, the previous coach. They just haven't done all that great in that area. Really in that area. I mean, if you think really close to Athens, within a 50-mile radius, and that's kind of understandable. That just on the top of my head, I think Stephon Tuitt and and certainly Deshaun Watson from Gainesville, and the kid from Archer that went to Auburn, a wide receiver. A lot of times, these guys, they don't have Georgia ties, and they want to get away from home, or they want to get further away. So Yarnell Color says here that CKS is worth every penny in peso. Jeff Herron, thank you, Rick Martin. Jeff Herron, who I've known forever. He was coaching at my kid's school. This is what happens when you get my age. But I think from an economic standpoint, you can't question what Georgia's doing with Kirby Smart. Most important aspect of this entire deal is the length of it. I think it's an addition, and let's be clear, it's a new deal. It's a new contract, so it's a new 7-year deal. So it picks up from right here and goes 7 years out to 2024 through 7 seasons out. So through the end of the 2024 season. And that's certainly a statement in and of itself. That was the most important thing, was that you tell everybody that Kirby's not going anywhere. He's staying here. And then the market dictates everything else. The market is what it is. Kirby Smart is an SEC championship coach. So you compare him with the rest of the coaches in the SEC and who's won championships. And those are, Nick Saban, Jimbo Fisher's won a national championship with FSU. He's never won an SEC championship. And Gus Malzahn's won an SEC championship, never won a national championship. So that's his peer group, and that's who he slotted with. You never knew. I mean, Georgia, you didn't know if he was going to be above or below Dan Mullen or above or below Gus Malzahn. As it turns out, he's tied with Gus Malzahn, and we were talking early in the program about how it would have been neat if Georgia thrown maybe another $100,000, made that $7.1 million, where you could slot him above Malzahn. But Jimmy Sexton, representative for all those guys, 11 of the 14 SEC schools, and that's just how it is now. It's a market situation. There's a lot of money pouring into the SEC right now, and it's a good time to be a successful coach in the SEC. Now, that's the good news about it. The bad news is there's a lot of expectation with that, and you got to work hard to live up to that kind of money. The expectations are high, so the leashes are short. I think Georgia's going to be a good team this coming season. I think they have a very good schedule. I think they're definitely a team in transition, losing all those seniors, 37 in all, including the considerable walk-ons. But you're also you got a good schedule that you can definitely win with, and I think there's a very good chance that Georgia could be back in that SEC championship game. That's certainly the expectation. And here's another thing about the 7-year, $49 million deal. As far as we know, that's not including any of the discussion of bonuses. And if you just look at Kirby Smart's contract from this past season, he made $1.35 million in bonuses out of a possible $1.6 million. Knowing Greg McGarity's philosophy about incentivizing his coaches and keeping his coaches incentivized, is that he might even sweeten the pot in that regard. So Josh Trotter pointing out that Mark Richt also got a new deal today from Miami. I'm not sure if the details out there about Mark Richt's deal, because I think they're a private school. They may not have to release them. Biggest threat in the East, I would say on first blush, Christopher, that's probably Auburn. Auburn should be in the East. South Carolina got Auburn on the brain. Probably South Carolina. And it doesn't help with Georgia opening their SEC schedule in Columbia that second week of the season. It'll be 110 degrees in Columbia. Hot as all get out, and the chickens, as I jokingly call them, and lovingly, I have a bunch of family that are all South Carolina Gamecocks. They'll really, really, really be up for that game. Hello, Mickey McKenzie. Thanks for joining. Give us your question. We're going to have to wrap up. We're about the last minute here. or so. If there's any other questions, I'll be glad to take them. But basically, that's it. Tom Crean signed a player this week. Georgia got a lot of things going on in recruiting. 0 for 4, if you want to count it that way, at the big Grayson announcement this week, but really 0 for 1, based on what Jeff Sentell is telling us, and I have no reason to doubt him. Cleet McAllister says Missouri might be good, and he might not be wrong. Georgia's is a front-heavy schedule when it comes to challenges. Played on the road at Columbia, at both Columbias, Columbia, Missouri, and Columbia, South Carolina, September 8th and September 22nd. Nobody nationally is going to get real excited about those two games. I've been to both places. Both are hard to play in, especially early in the year. So that'll be a struggle. That's it for now. You can continue with your comments here. I'll go in and look at them right after we break down this broadcast. Again, it was a little bit late, so I went a little bit late over here. Apologize for any delays on that. But we're here every week. Once again, I want to thank Marcos for sponsoring Towers Take, Marcos Pizza. It is America's #1 pizza company, and right now you can get two medium pizzas, two topping pizzas for $7.99 each. And the best way to order those, go to marcos.com, set you up a profile, and then all you have to do is point and click in the future like I do, and that thing will get there quick, and it's really good. So please patronize those people who do such wonderful things in helping sponsor us. So thank you to Lloyd Dixon. Thank you, James Crump, Chris Rhodes, and everybody. I appreciate you hanging out with me tonight. And you can read more stuff, a lot of stuff on dognation.com every day. See you in the papers. Bye, y'all.